Hello and welcome. This is Allison Hassler and
Russell Williams.
We are here with Small Town, Big Business, our podcast to talk to you about the why and the how great businesses thrive in towns of 50,000 population or less. And we are here in Marion, Illinois.
We're coming to you from the Citadel building right here on Tower Square Plaza. And it's the home of Ethos Marion. We're an emerging small business incubator, co-sharing working spaces. Allison and I are interviewing successful business people, particularly in Marion, Illinois, but also the surrounding Midwest community. If you want to connect with us, you can connect through Russell at watermarkethos.org. Thank you so much for joining us and hope that you will subscribe to this podcast and join us for another upcoming episode of Small Town, Big Business.
Hello and welcome to Small Town, Big Business, the why and how businesses thrive in small towns in Middle America. I'm your host, Allison Hassler.
And I am Russell Williams. And Allison and I are interviewing successful business people, particularly in Marion, Illinois, but also the surrounding Midwest community. And we're thrilled to have two owners of Crown Brew Coffee, Josh Benitone and Jared Gravatt. Welcome.
Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'd love to hear more about your story and especially the background of how Crown Brew came about and the connection to Marion, Illinois. So, Allison, you want to start us?
Yeah, so tell us about your origin story. Where did you come up with the idea of creating this gorgeous and wonderful high-quality coffee shop, and lead us into those beginning stages of what that looked like?
So it's kind of funny to be sitting in here when we talk about like our origin story, because literally where our company started was right outside this window here in the Marion Civic Center. That's when Jared and I met for the first time.
Okay.
And what was happening is before that, I had a missions organization that I was running and traveling a ton. I fell in love with coffee in the mission field. I wasn't even a coffee drinker until I went to Guatemala. I had this amazing experience with this coffee plantation owner. She like hand roasted her coffee in a wooden bowl over an open fire, like 1 to 2 pounds at a time. I just had a sip of it and I was like, to be polite, like you eat and drink weird things when you're in other countries sometimes. And I was like, oh my gosh, my mind was blown. So I did what any like fledgling like entrepreneur mentally would do. I bought everything that she had, 100 pounds, flew back to America. Wow. And I was like, I'm going to like sell this at events and stuff that we're doing. And so we were doing a ton of events where we were like sharing about these different countries that we were working in and whatnot. And we're bringing different products back. Coffee was one of those. So now to Crown Brew's origin story. So I'm at the Marion Civic Center. I sell a bag of coffee to this random guy, Jared, as it turns out, and we began connecting in the lobby for like an hour, I think, and he began to share like his vision of like what a coffee company could look like, and I'll let him share that part. But anyway, like we had met and connected over that. A month later, we had Thai food. And I said, hey, you know that really great vision you shared with me? I said, what are you doing to actually make that happen? He said, well, nothing right now. I said, cool, do you want to start a business? And so that kind of led into like our origin story of stumbling through two guys with zero business experience, zero business education, zero business background, with a whole lot of passion, a united vision. We just began like stumbling through it, learning the hard way with the help of our community. We were going to talk through through the podcast here. But yeah, that's kind of how we started.
That's so cool.
And I'll let Jared just kind of share his view. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, Jared. Now we want to see this from your lens as well. How did this really go down?
Yeah, so I had just moved back to the area from Kansas City. So I grew up in Marion, but I had just moved back. So Kansas City is super saturated in craft coffee. I love that part about the city. So moving back to the area, I was a little frustrated because it wasn't a lot of like really cool craft coffee shops in Marion specifically, which is where I live. And so when I bought the beans from Josh, I could just tell like he had that like entrepreneurial spirit. And I just opened up about, my heart to see a really amazing craft coffee company in this region that, generates community, that celebrates diversity and all those kinds of things. And so we just really kind of connected about what could that look like to have like a business that is known for just like creativity and excellence and all those kinds of things. And so then he's like, yeah, let's get Thai food and connect. I was thinking it was, just a new friend in the area where you're just going to connect and, dream and scheme type of thing. And so, when he asked me of like, what are you doing about all this vision? I was like, it hit me. I was like, nothing right now. And I just saw it as like an opportunity. I was young and in my 20s and dumb and crazy enough to believe that maybe this could work. And so I was like, yeah, let's do it. Like, what have we got to lose, really? Yeah. And so that's kind of how it all started. But honestly, with the business, I bought a dog, believe it or not, I bought a dog collar from this company. And the packaging was so insane. It was so over the top. And so I thought, I want our business, because we started shipping our coffee. We started off online e-commerce. I was like, I want to create this like unboxing like experience for our customers. And so that's kind of how we got started, was just like shipping boxes of beans, and I'd write like handwritten notes to the customers and stuff like that. But yeah, we really did not know what we were doing at first, but we were just two young guys with ambition and a vision and trying to figure out how to make it a reality.
Yeah. What year was that, the meeting of the minds here?
It was 2016.
Okay.
So we had met, I think literally in March 2016. We officially got all of our paperwork filed in for easy dates November 1st, 2016.
Wow.
Barely rolled out our website at my family Thanksgiving for Black Friday. Like that's what we're talking about.
Yeah. And then how long did it take for the first product to come out?
Man, we were immediately like selling like those exact same bags of coffee from Guatemala.
Okay.
There's a whole sketchy story for another podcast of me.
I should share the parking lot story.
I wish I had a picture. But basically, the early days, like I had mission teams from Guatemala still bringing us product. What's hilarious is the missionary that I was like kind of buddies with, he knew what he was doing. I know he did. I had to drive to Tennessee to go pick up this product, okay? It's all in unmarked golden bags in a pallet, plastic wrapped.
Yeah.
Okay? And I'm like picking this up, driving in like a little hatchback car because mine was in the shop. Everyone can see this pallet of unwrapped, like just golden foil like bags that literally say from Colombia, which because it's Columbia, Tennessee, okay? Which is so weird. And so Jared and I were like rebagging that. Jared was literally got pulled over one night when we were up late, like boxing coffee.
It's like at 1 a.m.
At 1 a.m.
Yeah.
For just being out at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, hey, you're the coffee
He like rolls out the window. Yeah. He's like, wait a second. You're the coffee guy. He's like, do you have any coffee on you right now? Can I buy some? And I was like, yeah, sure. Like swapping it out.
Still in the gold wrapper, not the experiential wrapper yet.
So we're in these early days and we're literally slinging beans out of our trunk. We get our website up November 2016, just begin selling things, and we end up with a cafe kind of out of nowhere in May 2017.
Yeah, wow. That is another podcast. Sketchy business in small towns. Right? Yeah, we'll work on that one next. So because we want to hear more. So, as I understand, your business is more than coffee. It is much more than just having a shop in a small town where you're providing a drink. Talk more about that and how that developed from the beginning.
Yeah, share the big part of your vision.
We sell coffee, but I would consider us like a hospitality company. Yeah. We are in the hospitality industry, and so everything that we do, we try to create an experience for our customers, and we just want them to have that unique experience. And so for me, like we love music, and we would have live music in the shop, and I would love, catering to all different types of people in the community. I just wanted a safe space for them to come, whether that's to work, to have a really intentional conversation with a friend or a peer. Or even just with us as a staff, we wanted to create that environment where we could get to know the community and serve the community in a way that it really deserved, we believed. And so for me, it was super important to create a space that was aesthetically pleasing and unique to really kind of inspire people to, one, just be creative themselves. But for us, we really consider our business, it's not, it's a hospitality company. We love to create that experience. We just so happen to sell coffee.
Yeah.
So I tell people a lot when we talk about business and teach business, the way we run our staff, the way that we deal with customers is super unique. And it starts with kind of these two things. I always remind everyone, we're human beings, working with human beings, serving human beings. And that's a huge key, because there's something in business minds sometimes, or in the professional industry, where we start treating people by their job titles and not by who they are. Mm-hmm. And I said, to take it a step further, the goal that the one thing that I believe all people want, and the one thing that we have the freedom to do in any business we do, is people want to be seen, they want to feel heard, and they want to feel loved. And we choose to do that through coffee. Mm-hmm. It's why our product is so amazing. It's why we're so diligent with our processes, is if I want you to feel seen, heard, and loved, I always relate it to this. When you're having guests into your house versus when you're having family over, the difference in the panic that comes to preparing your home, right? Yeah. And so when you're having guests over, you're you want them to feel that everyone knows you cleaned all day, Allison, right? Right. They know, but you want that feeling, right? That I labored for you. I prepared a meal for you. I took your dietary restrictions. I even made my kids take a shower before you came over. It's that mentality of I see you, I love you, I value bringing you into my home. And you leave that experience feeling seen, loved, and heard. And so I look at that, and Jared had this phrase, I quote it, it's hilarious. We were sitting at Panera at one of our early, before we were business things. He goes, and he got a soapbox, okay? It was the first time I've seen him get on a soapbox. And he goes, I don't care what we sell, we could sell freaking toothpaste. As long as it's the best toothpaste, we're proud to sell it, and it looks amazing, it will impact people's lives. And I love that, because
I love it.
It's not just people it's Absolutely. So easy, you sell coffee, of course people feel loved. No, there's ways to do it that make people feel loved. There's ways to treat our staff. There's ways to treat our customers to create that experience. And that's the ethos of who we are, I think.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I want to fast forward, because you're actually in your second location, storefront location, and you had moved from a neighboring town over to Marion, and we absolutely love you here. But the timing was probably not perfect. You renovated a very old historic building in downtown Marion. During that process is when COVID hit, right? Oh, yeah. So can you walk us through that story and what happened there?
Yeah. 2019 through 2020 was a blur for us in a way maybe different than a lot of people. We were 3 years into running our company. We had just figured out what it looked like. Because if you study business, you're if you can survive 2 years, you're really up to something good. So we finally got to that point where I think we know what we look like. We have full-time staff. We have processes going on. There was this whole thing where we always wanted to start a cafe in Marion. We had caught what was happening there. We had caught the energy. And so we were watching, right? But we were in kind of a unique situation where Jared and I had some other businesses that we had started at the time. Everything was growing and going. It was feeling good. But on the inside, there was something kind of weird going on with our old location and with the city that we were in. And so the long story short, we basically ended up not being able to stay where our cafe was. And that whole 6 months leading up, we were just exhausting everything. We're running a couple businesses at this time. We're going all over all of Southern Illinois, looking at every building possible to rent, to buy, trying to find something, because we have this ticking date where if we don't be moved and have a new cafe by then, we're just not going to have a business anymore. Mm-hmm. And all the while, there's so much noise going on. You could do this, you could do that. Different mayors from different cities have their opinions, and we're trying to connect with anyone and everyone, knowing where we wanted to be was Marion, but some pieces just hadn't fallen into place yet, right? And so here we get up to September 28th, our drop dead date for if we don't have another cafe, we have nothing. And we didn't have another cafe. We literally took 3 years worth of work in one single day, packed up our entire cafe and our entire business into a trailer and into a storage locker, while simultaneously losing our biggest contract for our marketing company on the exact same day. And Jared and I sat there, we sat at Quattro's at 10:30 that night, September 28th, with our team.
Pizza restaurant.
Yeah. Awesome pizza.
Yes.
We're sitting there with our team, having packed up both of our businesses in one day, put everything in a storage locker with no building and nowhere to go, basically firing our entire team at that meeting.
Wow.
And they know it. And we're just sitting there celebrating together because they're saying, you guys got this. Like, we believe in you. We're so sad that we're taking a break. But like, we're so excited to come back. And it was so emotional. We woke up the next morning. We'd lost all of our income, all of our salaries from both of our jobs, and we had absolutely nothing. And so that was literally October 1st, 2019. And we had some things we were kicking around, but we just weren't there yet. We had this building that we were looking at in downtown. And we had met with Mayor Absher, and we were like all on board with what was happening in the city, but it just felt like nothing was lining up yet. Every building on the square we'd been in and out of. And finally, we just got the right partnership to make this building work that we're in. So then Jared and I, being young, being stupid, being broke at the time, think we're going to do what any rational business owner is going to do. We're going to design, renovate, gut, and do this entire building on our own.
Yeah.
So anyway, we start that. Things are going great. We finally get rolling. Like we're moving. Everything is looking good. Then March comes, and we're like halfway through with our building, thinking, hey, as soon as like the warm season comes, we can at least get out and start like serving and selling things to people, getting out and doing events, right? Because we lost our company almost right before winter, the worst time to go out and do events. Here we come. It's right up to March. Whispers of COVID are going on, and then all of a sudden, just like that, the entire country gets shut down. The entire state gets shut down, and here we are sitting in a half-renovated building. We can't do carry-out because there's no kitchen, like there's nothing, right? We can't be creative in any ways. We can't go out into the community. It's just not a thing, and we're sitting in the middle of all that. It was a really intense season for us.
Yeah.
So the story finally turns. I'm sure we can dig into that more, but come 1 year after we'd shut down our other location, almost lost everything, we then relaunched our business at this brand new location. The day of grand opening, we get shut down for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Because we had little COVID challenge on our team. So we're literally standing at grand opening, cutting the ribbon. We're like, oh, that's great. And then we're like shut down for 2 weeks. And then we get back, and then like the governor had issued a new order because COVID had gotten really bad, and then shut down again. So anyway, it was a weird year.
Yeah.
It was a weird year. And again, I know we're going to talk about this. If it was not for our city and community, I don't know how we'd be here. But that's like the dark, real stuff that was behind. And there's a lot of decisions we had to make, a lot of conversations we had to have to get through that really intense season.
Yeah. Well, talk about that, Jared. The city and community is important.
Yeah.
What did that mean for you in this particular small business situation where you are down, up, and then back down?
Yeah, I think it was just amazing. It just reinforced, like, we live in such an amazing community. Like the situation with our grand opening. I mean, we had purchased thousands of dollars worth of merchandise and milk and products preparing for like the biggest weekend of ever. And we were immediately shut down. And so we were panicking because we were like, we're going to lose thousands of dollars. And people in the community came together and just bought out everything just to show support. So they were buying growlers and just cleaning out our inventory for those 2 weeks because they showed us so much support and love. They didn't let us be hurt by what happened. And so to have that kind of sense of family and community here before we even open, I mean, pretty much one day, to have that kind of support was absolutely amazing to see that.
Yeah. Awesome.
That's amazing. So you both have lived outside of Marion. You've both lived outside of small town, middle America. What made you want to open your business here versus, let's say, Kansas City, a perfect example, because you just mentioned that you lived in Kansas City, Missouri. It is a bustling, pretty good sized little city. And what made you come back to a small community in order to launch this business?
I think for most of my life, when I was growing up here as a young person, I was like, there's not a lot, it doesn't seem like there's a lot for me as a young person here. And so when I was living in Kansas City, there was just stuff accessible everywhere, and I loved it. But I had this mentality change of like, just because something doesn't exist doesn't mean that it's bad. It's actually an opportunity to create that very thing. Yeah. So being in that city, I was so inspired with everything that was happening. I felt like I had all this stuff that I wanted to bring to this region because I felt like it was ready for it. I felt like people were really wanting something like that. And I think a lot of small towns, they get looked over because they think because it's small, there's a huge risk involved, but actually it was the complete opposite. I saw that there was opportunity here, even more than a super saturated city. And, a lot of people were like, people in Southern Illinois, it's very rural. They're not going to understand craft coffee. These are probably Folgers drinkers. You're not going to do very well as you would in a city. A lot of my friends really encouraged me, to do that in a bigger city than in a small rural town. And I was like, no. It's actually the opposite. I believe there is success. Someone once told me, to a smart crow, a scarecrow is an advertisement.
Yeah.
A lot of times where there's that most fear and intimidation, where there's like a path that hasn't been created, there's a fear there. But I believe that there's a greater reward, a greater fruit underneath that. So I had to really push through that fear, even the people being like trying to discourage me from doing that, and really with my vision and believe that, this region deserves something that would be accessible in a major city. Yeah. And it's proved successful. There has been major fruit in us doing this business.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's awesome. So well said. So back to the naysayers' points. What would you say is the biggest concern that, maybe, and I'm sure that these were people that love you and that were just wanting to look after you. What was that challenge that they perceived that you were going to have, or what actual challenge did you see because you're in a small town versus a major metropolitan area, and how did you overcome those?
Yeah. I think people think because in rural that it's just only tumbleweeds. And as a business, you want to be where there's thriving and traffic and people and walking and foot traffic, all these kinds of things that you would associate with that. And a lot of those businesses are successful because of those things, but it doesn't mean that people won't travel to your business. And so for us, we've really become a destination spot. Wherever we're at, people will come to us. If you create something that's worthy for people to come, they'll travel, they'll drive, they'll whatever. And so that was one of the things, is they thought that we wouldn't get the traffic, the amount of people as you would in a major city. And that's actually been false. I mean, we barely can keep up, but we're like we're almost so short-staffed. It's been amazing, the response of the community. When you create something, people will come for that.
Yeah.
Well, that abundant mindset in a small town is what I love about you guys. That is so true. You have to meet you guys one time and that comes across. That's not true for all small business owners. That's not true for all entrepreneurs. We're limited in that way. The mindset can be big walls for some of us. Talk a little bit more about where that comes from, and also how can you encourage us to have that mindset in order to develop a bigger business?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot. I mean, that's a whole nother podcast, right? Like that whole idea. But even like thinking about like why people choose where they're going to live. Man, that's tied into all of it. I think so many times people look at something after like the fruit has already come, and they just want to go in and get a piece of it for themselves. And that works, right? People move to big cities. Nashville didn't used to be big. Right. I think Chicago's always been big. But like there's these places.
But they borrowed money from Southern Illinois to be big. That's some history there.
But like you go to these places, like they didn't always have an art scene. Now they have it. They didn't always have a coffee scene. Now they have it. I think there's just a special inheritance for people that are bold enough to go and pioneer and create something. Yeah. If you really look at big cities and you take off the like, whoa, it's so cool lens, look at Nashville, for example. I've heard a lot of business friends of mine say about 8 or 10 businesses got something right, and everyone else just copy paste. There's something special about being like a founding father, founding mother or something, to pioneer it. And so where that abundance mindset comes is you've got to value your intangibles way more than your tangibles. I didn't want to live in Southern Illinois. I'm not from here. Circumstances and a lot of faith brought us here. And I had family down here, and I said, I would never want to live in somewhere like that. I was going to Nashville. I was going to Greenville. I was going to somewhere where it looked like people like me could succeed. People with my mindset, people the way my wife and I dressed, thought, acted, et cetera, et cetera. When I came down here, even my first 4 years living here, I was 1 foot in and 1 foot out. Until I realized the intangible things were here. Everything in the invisible and unseen realm was everything that Sarah and I had been looking for our whole entire lives. Yeah. Were we really going to let like the state take that away? Like a tangible thing. Were we really going to let something like, well, there's maybe not as much people or money here, take that away? No, because when you find that feeling of belonging, that energy, that passion, that drive for success, you sell everything like for that. And so when we felt it, we're like, everything about this is right in our minds, our human minds, except for the geography. We're like, wait, then couldn't this just be it? Yeah. Like, what if we have it here? Like, we have a mayor who's electric. He like just everything about him, everything he touches radiates like passion. We're surrounded with people here who we're not so busy competing with the other brands. We are the market share like for coffee in our city. Like there's not anyone doing that in our city. So we just get to be ourselves. So anyway, this all comes around to this idea, this abundance mindset. When we look at our tangible things, money, products, buildings, geography, and our eyes stay fixed on those things, let's be honest, those things come and go. They move. If COVID taught us anything, wealth, resources, stuff moves in and out with a day's like notice. Like there's no telling. The intangible things we can always have a wealth mindset with. And this is something that I always want to tell people. There is literally no limit to your creativity, to your ability to love the community. Those things are like renewable resources. The more creativity you expend, the more comes. It's really interesting. There's a perpetual machine here. When I spend money, sometimes my money comes back equal, sometimes it comes back less, sometimes it comes back more. That's the reality of like investing in business. But what I found is when I have an abundance mindset with my creativity, with my new product ideas, with how I'm gonna like love my community, with something interesting I'm gonna create, the more I use it, the more it comes back. And so I think we have to like draw a line between tangible physical resources and the intangible things that are infinitely renewable. And I promise you, like as you use your creativity, you only get more. And so this poverty mindset, it starts with the invisible and then it manifests into physical. And so then when I'm looking at the money I have, when we're looking at times where we had nothing, right? We almost lost our entire business. The hardest fight for us was not about how we were going to pay our loans. Because like money just finds a way. It just always does, right? Like if we're all sitting here today, like in this room, even at our hardest, lowest places, I know all of us have been, we always had food on the table. We always had our families. We somehow found a way to pay rent. Like none of us have experienced like a worse life than that. Yeah. The hardest fight for us was to keep our mental energy out of a poverty panic, out of a poverty mindset, and to stay creative, to stay edgy, to stay like, how do we bounce out of this? How do we come out of that? And so poverty mindset wants to take the intangibles before the tangibles. And so if you look at people struggling with, I don't have enough, I'm going to blame my city, I'm going to blame my resources, I'm going to blame my circumstances. That's crazy. Like that's a battle you've lost up here first. And so when we get the other way, we can be generous with our money, we can be generous with our time, we can be generous however we want, because we can always find a new way to create, a new way to like bring things in. And so I want to speak to like that lie and just say like, you have more creativity than you could realize. You have more love to give than you could realize. You have more passion than you could realize. Don't let the physical things determine the intangible things. My wife's a counselor, and there's this thing that will mess up your entire freaking world when you get it in your head. It messes with her clients, but here's the truth. There is a process in all of our lives. It goes thoughts, feelings, actions. Your thoughts dictate your feelings then dictate your actions. And so many times we let the circumstances come out and try to reverse it. Something happened, now I feel scared, now my thoughts are collapsing. But when you can get captivity of like your brain space, of the intangibles, you control everything out there, no matter how crazy things get.
I appreciate you sharing that. Hey, this is Russ. Allison and I just want to thank our sponsors for making Small Town Big Business possible. Thanks to Fowler Heating and Cooling, to the Watermark Auto Group Foundation, to Southern Trust Bank, and also Swinford Publications. And a big shout out to a producer, Union Street Arts. You can catch new episodes of Small Town Big Business every 2 weeks on Google Podcast, Spotify, Amazon Music, TuneIn, Podbean, or you can watch the full episodes on our YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining us for Small Town Big Business.
I want to circle back to what you said about you and your wife and identifying the intangible things that were right here in front of you this whole time when you were going here. And what are those intangible things for you, for both of you, about living in a small town that you couldn't find somewhere else if you were living in a great big city?
We had a list.
Wow, you really made a list.
We had a list. It's probably on my phone somewhere. But we're like, things that we wanted, a place we're gonna start a family and settle down, right? And it was everything from little things to big things. Everything from we're musicians, we're artists, right? So we want a place where we can find other musicians and artists. As business owners, we want a place where people appreciate our business. We want a place where we can raise kids and it feels safe. Those are the goofy ones, right? That everyone has. But then even deeper than that, we're we want a place where we feel like we have friendships and relationships that we wouldn't want to move away from.
Yeah.
We want a place that believes in us more than we believe in it, so that we can believe in it more than it believes in us, and it just creates a cycle.
Yeah.
We want to matter to our community, and we want our community to matter to us. And so for so much of us, as we had friends that had struck early in some of these communities that had grown, and we were looking at their fruit, and we were saying, if we can just move in, we can siphon off what they're doing. What I realized in this community is people here know who I am, and I know who they are. I was literally shopping for our cafe this morning at the store, and I bumped into 3 of our customers at the store, and just gotta love them the same way in public that I get to love them in the cafe. It's a small community, so it's almost easier to belong. It's easier to feel like you matter. It's easier to feel the impact of other people. And just in Marion, above all else, I feel like we've got city leadership that just wants to see us succeed. Yeah. And we've been in other communities that felt like they were doing everything to make sure that we couldn't.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you go to some big cities, it's everyone who's already established is making sure they're doing everything they can to make sure you can't succeed, to buy you out, to intimidate you, to bully you. Here, other than the naysayers, which we talked about a little bit, everyone else is when we got past the, you shouldn't do it, everyone drinks Folgers, they don't even have a Starbucks there. When we got past that, everything was, thank you so much for doing this. You have no clue how much this means to our community. Thank you so much for doing this. And you're like, oh my gosh, thank you for coming. And it's above all else, it's it's that belief in you and belief in each other and the intimacy that we found it. And we looked at that when we're going to lose everything. We're we could go somewhere easier and just get jobs. But we're we would trade anything and everything we had just to have this community that we had, that when we were at our worst, instead of kicking us and saying, I told you so, they said, now you guys did it once, you can do it again. We're behind you to make sure that happens.
Yeah.
And I was never going to get that living in a big city.
Yeah.
When the rug gets pulled out from under you in some of these places, you're just another business that didn't make it. You're just another person. In a town like this, in a city like this, you're a human being with a face, with a name, with a home, and people want to fight to keep you afloat.
Yeah. Well, part of that's also living here too, and you both have found homes here.
Yeah.
Tell us about that, because
sorry. Okay. Can I get your answer first?
Yeah.
About the intangibles.
So
and we'll go back to that.
The intangibles. Yeah, I would agree with him. There's an atmosphere here, and it's hard to put words to it, but there is a community, a safe feeling here. The loneliness the loneliest I've ever been has been in a major city. But here there's such like a grace to like meet people and build that rich community. There is a rich community here of amazing people with huge dreams and talent and just hearts. I mean, it's just incredible. There's such like a richness in the community here, and there's it's so easy to meet people in that way. And so the community I've always have ever dreamed of is here. And a lot of people would just drive past this a small town and think there's no way that can happen in such a rural community, but that's false. It is here, and there's actually, I think, an easier way to build the community of your dreams. And there's a diversity in people here. So whatever kind of community you're looking for, you will find it here. Yeah. I really believe that wholeheartedly. And so for us, that's just so important to have that sense of like family and belonging.
Yeah, that's excellent.
Yeah.
But you've chosen to live here too.
I have chosen to live here, and full transparency, I mean, even the cost of living here is incredible. I just bought a house for under $100,000 that would be $250,000 in a city like Nashville or St. Louis or something like that. I mean, dream homes of over 100 years old, you know, with so much character in life. I love it. I love the community. I love the neighborhoods here. It's amazing. Even just the cost of living is so much better than some of these major cities. I mean, I have friends that are living in Nashville and stuff like that, and they're buying these $500,000 homes that are 2 bedrooms, you know.
Working multiple jobs.
Working multiple jobs to pay for it, you know. Even just as a business, you know, accessing a really amazing building for a really great cost, and the resources and everything. It's just the cost of living here is incredible, especially when there is the rich community, the quality of life here, everything that we've, you know, looked for and dreamed of as a young person, as a young millennial, you know. We have that here, and it's amazing. It's like a no-brainer for us to even just want to plant our life and buy houses here in Marion.
Yeah, I just bought a house downtown. So my wife and I, when we decided to go all in and we get through all this stuff, we're like, okay, we're going to go like all in. Like we're going to live downtown, which in the housing market lately, it's impossible to find a place. No, we found a place that had been listed. It was listed on our wedding anniversary and just sat there untouched. And it's incredible. So we've been renovating it. We're all in. I want to walk to my coffee shop. We bought another building for our company, that's 2 buildings down from our cafe. And the cost of living, I'm pretty sure you could take my house I bought, which is huge, 130 years old. It's huge. Take Jared's house, take my house, take the warehouse we built, and the renovation we did in our cafe, and then maybe all 4 of those properties downtown equal what one of these like Nashville bungalows would cost. Yeah. One of these Atlanta.
No joke.
Not exaggeration.
Seriously.
That's amazing.
We've literally been able to plant our entire lives here, our families here, to be a part of this community for probably the cost it would be to start up like a cafe in Atlanta. And it's amazing. So we went from like being really down and out to like business is so incredible. We're having some of the highest sales weeks we've ever had, still in the middle of COVID because the Marion community is all over us. We have this warehouse and event space that, like where you haven't talked about, and we should scrub that part because it's kind of a secret. No, I'm just kidding. We've just both bought houses here and are renovating like our houses. Like we are all in on this community because this community is like all in on us.
Yeah, awesome.
So what would you guys say is the number one resource that you have found as part of being in this city? So in this town, in Marion, and this could be something that when you were in the dire straits of the COVID era of trying to renovate and things like that, or now when you are thriving and doing very well. Is there a specific resource that has been available to you that you feel like maybe is unique to either a small town or specific to Marion?
Can I tell you the most valuable thing? I know this sounds silly. You guys, honestly, the mayor, Cody, you at City Hall, Russell, when you moved in downtown, even Luke, who's off camera, like these people that they came in at the same time, honestly. And like when we were in some of the worst places, to know that I could text our mayor. I don't think everyone gets that privilege, and just be like, I don't know, Mike, this is like really tough. And he would just like come in and be like, you can do it.
Yeah.
To where when it felt like we would get hung up with like the very few contractors we had to use, like it always felt like we were so used to working on everything. So we'd get a contractor come in and they're moving at contractor pace and we're like dying on the vine. So we're out for 3 weeks and it feels like nothing's going anywhere. To walk into City Hall, to like see you, to see like Cody, to see someone who's just like, how's it going, guys? We're so excited for you. We're so grateful that you moved here. I don't think you realize how much those are the intangibles.
Yeah.
And in the times that we probably walked in looking like we're really excited to see you guys, were probably actually really hard times.
Yeah.
Where we just needed to see somebody else. Even when like Luke and them bought the building across from us, like Luke would just kind of wander over and just check in on us. Like that feeling of people caring, the slow drive-bys that we hated while we were working on our building, that we secretly loved, like as people kind of being nosy, that feeling that like people wanted you, they wanted to see you succeed. It meant everything to us.
Yeah.
And I know it seems silly, but it's like, it was so valuable and so rare. We'd been in other cities where like I couldn't even see who the mayor was. Yeah. And like when we were there, they were just annoyed that we were here because there used to be people complaining. Here in Marion, it's like, let's celebrate first. Let's do solutions first. Like it's not complaining first.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. Marion specifically, the amount of support that we've had with the city leadership has been amazing. And I think people don't realize, especially even as a business owner, how having that kind of support can really either just like discourage you or give you that push and encouragement that you need. And I feel like we've gotten that so abundantly here in Marion. When we've been in like our lowest moment, it really gave us that motivation because we felt really seen. And it was like, there wasn't like, whatever. It was like, you got this, whatever you need. Like when we had an idea, we'd text the mayor or call the mayor and be like, whatever you need, like I'll make the phone, like and I would get a phone call from, somebody, all the connections. I mean, there's the community.
When we were hot, Allison brought us an air conditioner.
She did. She brought us an air conditioner.
That is true.
Yeah.
Probably
But to have that kind of support, knowing that as I build my company here, I not only have, the community that I've created, I have the backing of the city.
Yes.
I have that support. I mean, that's so important. You cannot get that in most other places.
You can't buy it. You can't find it.
No,
it's rare.
not at all.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that has so much value.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I can't put a number to it, but the amount of value that just the backing of the city has is so incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing.
Well, it works both ways too. And can I ask you a follow-up question
Yeah.
on that? So location-wise, it's about location, right?
Yeah.
You guys are exactly 1 block off the town square, Tower Square Plaza in Marion, Illinois, and you're very much part of the revitalization project here in downtown Marion. Revitalization project started during the COVID year. It started 2020. I honestly think that, 10, 20, 30 years from now, there'll be tours around downtown Marion and they'll go to the steps in front of Crown Brew and they'll say, this is where it started. Oh. You guys are that important to the revitalization.
Yeah,
what does that mean for you? What does that mean to be very much at the very beginning of something big here in Marion, Illinois?
I think when we looked at the city, and again, during the dark times, during the best times, we had just decided like it was more important to risk everything to try to do something of value that would impact other people's lives than to go hide in a big city. And I wanted to hide in a big city. I wanted to go work for one of my friends' successful companies. I wanted to like ride on their coattails. But we were like, if this works, if like this city grows the way that like we've said it's like going to, that we've seen, to be a part of that story and to watch other people's stories start, to be like what you guys were to us, to be like that to other businesses and to celebrate them. Cool. Like let us be one stop on the tour. Right? Out of 20, out of 30. And we're just like, this is so crazy. It just might work. And if it does, how special to take a community that even we with our own mouths have cursed at a point in time and said, well, there's nothing good down there. And to be like, that was the start of something so amazing that created hope, that created new businesses, that created new families, that people like flocked to be a part of. It was just worth it. And worst case scenario, we moved to Nashville 20 years from now, right? Right? And cool. Now we're living in it. But like, who cares? Like to take that shot, to be a part of something special, to be a part of doing it together was just worth it all.
Yeah.
There was one other downtown building, old building, that had been revitalized prior to you guys starting yours. And since then, we have, we could count how many dumpsters that are sitting out on Tower Square Plaza right now.
I need a construction hat every time I come to work. Yeah.
There is so much private investment going on in Tower Square. And so you mentioned to be a pioneer in your industry, but you are also a pioneer into something so much bigger, which was putting your own investment and your own dollars and your own blood, sweat, and tears into a revitalization plan and vision that it may be city-led, but it is adopted by the community.
Yes.
And you were a pioneer in that piece of it. And to see all of the other projects that are going around of other private businesses starting and revitalizing the older buildings that take a lot of effort. And I don't have to tell you guys that. It's a really exciting, and I think I just wanted to acknowledge that you're a pioneer in both of those ways, not just in the coffee industry and bringing us craft coffee and paving the way for that experience in Southern Illinois, but also in the revitalization vision that we can put this forward, and it does take pioneers to do that.
Yeah.
So
excellent.
So I have one last question for you, and this could be either talking to your 18-year-old self, or if you were talking to an entrepreneur that is thinking about coming to a small town to start their business, what advice would you give them?
It's a good one.
I'm just going to sit on this for a second. There's a lot.
There is a lot.
And you can play it either way. Do you want
to go first?
Your old self.
I've got three.
Or someone else.
You want to start?
I'll go first.
Okay.
So, for me, I can be a bit of a perfectionist sometimes. Would you agree?
You're fine.
That's a business partner for you.
But
there.
I think a lot of times with people like me, you want everything, you want to have it all, and it has to be perfect. And I think a lot of struggles that perfectionists have is that fear of if I can't do that, then I'm just not going to do it at all. So for me, that biggest risk was just taking that step. I was a broke millennial. How am I going to have the coffee shop of my dreams and the company of my dreams, without, and so it's just starting small, starting with the little. I mean, I didn't have a college degree, but yet I still sought education. YouTube, Google, we traveled, we met with business owners, we found people that inspired us to learn from, to just be a sponge. So I would encourage, anybody that thinks I can't, because any kind of excuse that is, you absolutely can. There is literally no excuse. If you don't have money, if you don't have the education, if you don't have, start small, learn. Go to YouTube, Google, find a business owner that inspires you, get coffee with them, learn from them. Any little bit, it makes a huge difference. And so, for me, and then eventually making excellence out of the small, the more that you do that, you can make more excellence out of the big. Now I have literally a coffee shop of my dreams, and it was because of that. It was because I saw the fruit underneath the scarecrow, and I would encourage myself as a young 18-year-old or any other young 18-year-old, to a smart crow, a scarecrow is an advertisement. The things that you may be experiencing that are intimidating you to pursue your dreams, go for it. Figure out the roadblocks and figure out ways and solutions that will remove those roadblocks. Don't let the roadblocks keep you from going forward. There are always solutions to every problem. There's always a solution to every problem. I'm thankful for my friendship with Josh. because whenever I come up and I'm discouraged and I'm like, man, we can't do this. This isn't going to work. He's like, no, we're going to figure out a solution. We're going to find a way, and we always do. It's amazing.
I've got 3 things. I had to pack it all down.
Yeah.
We've got a time limit here, I guess. Number 1, just do something. I cannot tell you how many 18-year-olds I sit with, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, where they're got that crippling perfectionism or that it has to be so perfect that they just do nothing. And they have these big dreams, big vision, big idea. And I always ask them, it's the same question I asked Jared. He's not the first millennial I've asked this question to. So what are you doing to make that dream come true? So many of them are just like, I have this dream, I have that dream, but. I don't want to hear I have this dream, but. I want to hear, I have this dream, so I'm doing this, so I'm doing that. And it's it all starts, what's interesting is I kind of knew I wanted to get into business before coffee. Coffee is how it manifested. But I look at people and there's one 18-year-old I can think of right now. She's like, I don't think I'm going to go to college. I'm like, cool, why not? She's like, I think I want to learn some skills that will actually help me and then make up my mind of what I want to do. So then if college amplifies that, I'm like, whoa, you've got to figure it out. Do something. I've done more construction in the last 2 years than I ever thought possible, and I've saved hundreds of thousands of dollars because of it. I've done more accounting. I've done more marketing. I've done more you just name it, all these things that you don't realize when you just get out there and do everything that I'm doing for my company right now comes from some obscure job, comes from helping somebody else, comes from shadowing my father-in-law or Uncle so-and-so doing something. Everything we do can play into who we want to be. And so just get out and do something. If you're not ready to start your business yet because you don't have the money yet, cool. Go be a 2nd or 3rd shooter at a wedding if you care about photography. If you want to be in carpentry, you don't know what that looks like, cool. Go volunteer to help Allison renovate one of her cabins. There's always something to do. And I don't think we realize the least part of what I do in my business has to do with coffee.
Yeah.
That's what my barista is. I pay people to do the coffee. Everything else that makes it my business is the stuff, these lessons I've learned, these things I stepped out and did. So if you want to start a business, just do something. Sell lemonade first. Yeah. Get some experience. Let the world beat you down a little bit. Learn about yourself a little bit. Come against some adversity and let that turn you into the person you dream about being. Your dreams need to be less about what you're doing and they need to be more about who you want to be. Then the what falls in alignment with that. So just go do something, please.
Yeah.
Second one, and this is a tricky one. Be confident, but be humble. Confidence and arrogance are not the same thing. They walk a very thin line. They're cousins. But I've learned in business, there's times where you just have to be confident in yourself. You've got to roll with something, even if you know it's not the best. You roll with it and you bet on yourself. And you say, you know what? Confidence isn't I'm the best in town. Confidence is no matter what happens, we're going to come up with a solution for this. I remember, with the COVID, with that shut down with our company, I remember being with the eclipse. We put a lot of money into making does everyone remember the eclipse or has COVID erased that? Yeah. Okay. There was an eclipse a couple of years ago. We put a stupid amount of money and product into it because we were buying into the hype everyone was saying. We ended up losing an insane amount of money. So, but we had to be okay, how are we going to roll out of this? Be confident, right? Be confident in yourself. Be confident in your product. You don't have to be the best. You just have to do a great job. And you've got to be willing to make some mistakes and keep rolling. But be humble. When you're around people who are better than you, and I don't mean they have more money than you, I mean better at you and who you want to be in areas of business and accounting and just being a mom or dad. Listen, just shut your mouth and listen. That would actually be really helpful. I can confidently say, I don't know what I'm doing. And that's where confidence and arrogance aren't the same. Yes, I'm brave enough to go out and start a business. Yes, I'm going to do this coffee thing. Guys, when we started our business, when we started our coffee shop, we got away with things we wouldn't have gotten away with in big cities because we didn't know our industry well enough to know it. We were doing things that just weren't right. They just didn't make sense. Scientifically, chemistry, all this, it's a lot. But if I would tell real coffee, industry people about how we started, we'd get laughed out of a room, right? But we were just so confident because our focus was we're just going to keep going. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to learn. But we were humble enough to keep learning, keep listening, and keep paying attention. So look for those moms and dads. Look for those mentors. Be humble, but realize you've got what it takes within you to be the person you want to be.
Yeah.
Other people are going to help with that. And then the third one, and I think this is like really important. So we're do something, right? Be confident, but be humble. Don't do it alone. I was thinking about this morning. Like if I could sum up one thing about business, Jared kind of hinted at it. Don't do it alone. I think sole proprietorship is really dangerous. I know maybe for like coaching and stuff like that, like it works. But when I look at like any other business, it's like a product or anything else, I'm like, don't do it by yourself. Because I needed Jared at the times where I didn't have enough. He needed me at the times where he didn't have enough. And when we both didn't have enough, we had a community that lifted us up. Yeah. And I think there's this mindset, it's a poverty mindset, I think a lot of times, that we need to be like independent, 100% ownership, sole proprietorships. Yeah. And really we look at something and say, if we can be 5 times as successful with 3 partners than we could with 1, don't we all have more? And so don't do it alone. Yeah. Whether it's a mentor, whether it's a business partner, whether it's your spouse, bring someone else in on that. Because at the times where you will quit, they won't let you quit on you. Yeah. And at the times where your creativity is exhausted, like they'll come in. And I think for our relationship, what works the best is when you have someone else, you can actually divvy up the responsibility and carry a bigger load. Yeah. There's things that Jared does I haven't even looked at in months at our company because he's just passionate about it and does it well. There's things that I think if I got in a car accident tomorrow, Jared would be in trouble with some things, right? Because that's how much like we trust each other. And like if he dies tomorrow, our social media presence disappears, and we're not going to look cool anymore. And I'll wear a hat to things, like make me get ready. And you know what I mean? And so, but there's something beautiful about like having that kind of trust and doing things together, which really makes it the best. And you're always going to get more out of more brains. Yeah. So don't do it alone.
Can I ask you just a couple of quick questions, and we'll wrap up? But what's next for Crown Brew? Can you reveal something in just some type of...
Same thing we tried to do last night, Russell. Try to take over the world.
Yeah. You're doing well. You're doing well.
No. What's next?
Yeah. Business-wise. Anything you can let us know? Or we can always invite you back.
Maybe you'll have to invite us back.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard. I think there's a game sometimes you play as a business owner. Jared and I have a million conversations. We're all dreamers.
Yeah.
Okay? And so... there's some days where we look and we're like, let's just start like 100 cafes. Doesn't that sound great? We could do this everywhere. Yeah. And so some weeks that sounds great. So we start looking at other places. Then there's other weeks where we're like, forget coffee. Let's make the most like kick butt cafe in Marion ever. Let's give it as a gift to the city. If you want to come to Crown Brew, you got to drive here to get it. And let's go start something else exciting. Yeah. And so what's really crazy is like, again, the tangibles change nonstop. Mm-hmm. What's next for us is we're in a season as business owners where this year we're trying to establish and dig roots in where we are in our community and in who we are as people. Yeah. Crown Brew is our baby, right? Yeah. It's going to grow and do its own thing. And at the right times, we're going to know where to take it. But anytime we start to try to like control the destiny of Crown Brew, it comes back to bite us. Yeah. When we step back and focus on ourselves, on our community, on our team, on who we want to be, on those intangibles, the right doors come along. Mm-hmm. I think what's next for us as a company, which is like this defies everything where it's like, go franchise, go sell this, go mass produce, is we're actually taking a season just to dig deeper into who we are and what we do and just see how far can we take it where we are right now as leaders, as partners, as a company. How far can we take this before something like that just feels right comes?
That's another word of advice for other business owners. Yeah. A lot of times people think when you're becoming successful that what's next or growth is what's more is going out, but it's really important to see more is also deeper and where you're already planted.
Oh,
and
so well said.
For us, it's like that tendency of like, more businesses, more, all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's always the first response. You always see expanding out. But we had to realize that the next step, which is just as important in that, is more deeper and going deeper in the company, establishing those roots so strong that no matter what season is going on, I mean, it can't be shaken, because eventually we probably will expand and maybe have more coffee shops and more different types of businesses that we're not going to tell you about right now. But this next season, we don't know what's after that. But in this next season, it really is growing those roots deeper. And we're really proud of that decision. It's not an easy thing to do.
It was the most counter to our entrepreneurial nature. But like, we literally had to make a decision that said, we think the best thing for our business this year, I know this sounds stupid, but just listen to me, is that Jared and I buy houses in Marion, we renovate them, and we have a home. Because for so long, like many millennials, we were sojourners and wanderers trying to find our community. And we realized if we would just settle into where we are and invest in that, let this be our home cafe, like get this beautiful warehouse up, get our own homes to where like we felt settled, then we could like build the kingdom outward from there, like build those kingdoms outward. And I just was really thinking about it because entrepreneurs, we think conquer. New. Let's go out and conquer and create new things. And I just felt like one word of like wisdom was kings have castles. Like every conqueror, every conquistador, every emperor who went out and just took over the entire world, they had a place to lay their head. They had a family to come back to. They had a place to be. And we just hadn't even had that, like even as a company, like had that feeling of home as humans. And we're like, we're going to take a year and a half. We're going to like build our home and build deep, so that when the growth comes, it doesn't destroy and erode what we have, it blesses it.
Yeah, excellent. One last question. I promise.
We're on your time. Keep going, Russ.
Hey, I want to get your take on Ethos. So Ethos is the project here at the Citadel building, and it's entrepreneurial and technical opportunities. It's an emerging project, but you guys have been key because you've been part of our steering committee to put this idea together into action. Just give me some feedback. What does Ethos mean to you and what we're going to be doing here?
Yeah, I mean, I personally see Ethos becoming a hub specifically for, young business owners needing that, that community. They need the connections, they need the training, they need the resources and the networking and all those kinds of things. I really see people coming from all over the United States even coming to get really accessing the resources that is going to be produced out of Ethos. I think it's going to be absolutely incredible, and it's necessary. Yes. And a lot of times there's not things like that for young business owners. We wished we had something like Ethos to be a part of or access, and just to have this. I think it's not only just going to be a hub where it's going to draw people in, but I think it's going to be a standard of excellence for the neighboring communities to see. I just believe it's going to be so successful. I'm so excited for it.
Yeah. It's an absolute gift, because everything I think it's going to do is everything we would have killed for. And I think what it's going to do is it's going to get really great people and businesses to their destinies faster, better, and stronger than when you just have to figure it out the old-fashioned way, just by your own strength. And what you guys are creating here, it's gonna accelerate growth. It's gonna accelerate community. Everything that's taken us 5 years to build, will happen so much faster. I think it's just such a gift.
Yeah, excellent. Well, we want to thank you. Allison and I want to thank you for being part of our podcast, but also just your partnership and what we're building here in this city. So, Josh Benitone, Jared Gravatt, it's Crown Brew Coffee here in Marion, Illinois. How do we connect with Crown Brew?
You can connect with us on our website, crownbrewcoffee.com. You can see us at our shop if you want, but
social media. We're everywhere on social media. Thanks to Jared. If you just want to go enjoy the cafe, go to Instagram, go to Facebook, go to TikTok. I think that's a thing now that young people are doing, right? So just jump on social media, look Crown Brew Coffee Company, and see what we're about. Yeah,
thank you so much. Well, Allison and I want to thank everyone for listening and maybe for watching. And if you want to connect with us, you can connect through Russell at watermarkethos.org. Ask more questions about downtown Marion and the Ethos Project here at the Citadel building on Tower Square Plaza. And then I also want to thank our sponsors for making this possible. Southern Trust Bank, thank you. Fowler Heating and Cooling. And last but not least, Watermark Auto Group Foundation. Thank you for tuning in and listening to us on Small Town Big Business. And you guys have a great day.
Thank you.